Now, if you're like me and you always forget your passwords or you're tired of clicking the reset my password button, then you should check out today's sponsor, NordPass. NordPass gets rid of all the fuss around password. It autofills forms, remembers an unlimited number of passwords, and even generates complex ones for you. So don't be that person that uses the same password for everything, because it's not safe. NordPass also recognizes suspicious websites so you don't accidentally reveal your sensitive information, and you can stay safe online. Now today you can get 50% off NordPass at www.nordpass.com/Siobhan, or you could use my code Siobhan at checkout. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to look at the LG V60 ThinQ. And I've been using it for a couple months, and it's probably like one of the weirdest phones that has came out in 2020. It's not weird because it has the dual screen attachment or anything. It's just weird because it's super simple, and we don't see a lot of that going on now in the smartphone world. Now LG played it safe. They didn't want to be like Samsung and come out with the actual foldable screen. They have 60 Hz refresh rate, good battery life. You know, that's what I mean. Like, it's super simple. They didn't really go beyond like our expectations or anything. That's why it's kind of weird. But we're gonna take a look at it and see what they have to offer here in 2020. Now, one thing I could always appreciate in a good smartphone, and that's a good battery life and also a good camera. And this phone delivers both of those. So the older model to this was the V60 ThinQ that had 4000 mAh battery, but this one has been improved by 1000 mAh, so obviously it's a 5000 mAh battery and it gets through the day easily. So the 25% increase in capacity is very good. Now, while I mentioned the display resolution is at 1080p, so naturally the life is gonna be pretty incredible in terms of the battery. Now, during my review process with the LG V60 ThinQ, I've really had like a hard time killing the battery in one day. It typically lasts at least 2 full days of usage, and that's with over 8 hours of screen on time. Now, I'm confident that if you really wanted to push the battery in the V60 ThinQ, you could get 10 hours or more. Now, this included time on both mobile data and Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, that did not include time on my carrier's 5G network since it's not available in my area. Now, this goes without saying that your usage might vary from mine, but I'm pretty sure that you'd get 8 hours plus using this phone on a daily basis. Now, as I mentioned, one of the main reasons for such an impressive battery life is because the display is running 1080p at 60 Hz refresh rate. I mean, it's nothing crazy because it's a 1080p screen, but when I'm watching YouTube videos on here, I could bump up the res more, so it looks really better than on my iPhone for some strange reason. And I'm talking about the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now, a lot of people were saying that a 60 Hz refresh rate on a 2020 flagship device is not supposed to be legal. Like, that's supposed to be a crime. And I could understand to some extent because it's just not what we're supposed to be seeing in 2020. But aside from that, the screen is pretty fine. If it was running 90 Hz refresh rate though, that would be an icing on the cake. Now, this is a time where every other manufacturer is embracing a high refresh rates, like a 90 Hz refresh rate or even a 120 Hz refresh rate, but LG is choosing to stick to the 60 Hz, which I just don't understand, because with the dual screen you could use like the game pads and everything, and games running at 120 Hz or 90 Hz is way more fun and enjoyable than playing games nowadays on 60 Hz refresh rates. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not really a big deal because to the untrained eye, if you're looking at 60 Hz, you'll be like, yo, what are you saying? This phone is perfectly fine. But for like people who are people who've already been exposed to like the Pixel 4, the S20 Ultra, the 120 Hz, the iPad Pros, stuff like that, it's just hard to go back to a 60 Hz refresh rate. It just feels slow and outdated. Now, luckily, the LG display exceeds my expectation in every other aspect though. It's large, 6.8-inch screen, full HD plus an OLED display, which actually looks really good. Now, as I've been saying for years, there's no real need for a QHD plus on a smartphone, as the full HD plus is like about the max that the human eye can actually see, and it usually affects battery life more than it should. So I think this is a pretty good option on LG's part. Now, since we're onto the display, we need to talk about the dual screen display attachment for the LG V60 ThinQ. So yeah, This piece of accessory right here is called the dual screen attachment, and this is basically what sets this smartphone from every other smartphone that has been released in 2020, and it's pretty cool. So let's dive into it. So now this is the third iteration of LG trying out the dual display approach to its flagship smartphones, and well, not much has changed from the LG G8X ThinQ that released last fall. There's still a very few apps that supports the dual display right now, including Google Chrome. Now if you want to use the web browser that spans both displays, you have to use LG's browser. I think the dual display really pushes smartphone productivity to the next level. There's just so much more you can do with two displays than one. There's also a lot of different small features that make a big difference while using the dual screen. For example, you could easily send screenshots from one app to the other. You could use one screen as a viewfinder, while in the camera app you could watch Netflix on one screen while video calling on the other screen. And basically the possibilities are just endless while using this dual screen display. And the good thing is, if you don't feel like louching around this onto your device, you could easily detach it. But I just think sometimes you just don't find yourself using it enough. Another real use case for this dual display is actually gaming, and specifically games that use a game controller. So as long as you could use a game controller with this, you could use the screen as a game controller and then other for the actual game. This means that if you're gaming on this device, your fingers won't interrupt the screen, and just gives a really clean experience while playing games. And I think LG did a great job here. You could also customize the gamepads, customize different layouts, make your own custom layouts, and yeah, it's just overall a good gaming experience that no other phone manufacturers provide. Now overall, looking at the phone, I think the design is great, but it's just not something I've never seen LG done before, and I think it's about time they actually try to push the boundaries and not be too afraid to change up the design. And also same thing with Apple, they just need to change the design, just like how Samsung, Pixel and those companies, they've been pushing their design forward. And yeah, just looking at this phone, you would know it's an LG phone because, as I said before, it's nothing we've never seen from LG. Now the design is a lot more industrial than most of the overly curvy 2020 flagships though, and that's not really a bad thing. Once you get used to the size, it's quite a nice phone to look at. My review unit is a pearly blue black with soft gold rim that offers a nice contrast. It feels durable enough to handle a few drops before picking up too much damage. It has water resistance, a headphone jack, a lot of the things that you'd probably not expect this pretty phone to have. Now along the side of the phone, you've got quite a lot of buttons with a dedicated Google Assistant key sitting alongside the split volume rockers and a power button. It seems like a waste of button in my opinion just for opening the assistant. I could have think they could have just used like the power button, so if you long press on it then that would activate the assistant. But yeah, that's just my opinion. But on the plus side, there's still a headphone jack though, and that makes LG the last to hold out on the headphone jacks in 2020, and this makes a lot of sense seeing that LG has put a big focus on audio on its smartphones in recent years with the quad DAC that's included on all its flagship, and without a headphone jack, the quad DAC is fairly useless. And yeah, that's like one of LG's main features on this device. So kudos to LG for keeping the headphone jack alive. We really appreciate it. Now performance wise, this thing is no slouch. It pushes literally no lag, it pushes through everything. Dual screen on, multiple apps open, video calling on one side, watching Netflix on one side, playing games on one side, doing other stuff on one side. I literally went to a presentation with LG with the LG V60. I ordered food, I was watching a stream on Zoom, and I was watching the presentations on the other side, and it had no issues. Everything worked flawlessly because of the chipset that's inside. I think it's really holding up well. So what's powering this device is a Snapdragon 865 and also 8 gigabytes of RAM, and that's amazing from LG. Even with LG not doing like so good with software in my opinion, the V60 ThinQ absolutely just flies on this hardware. You won't notice any issues when it comes to performance, even when playing the most demanding games. And that 128 gigs of storage also included is feature proof for a good while, so that's really nice to see. Now the software is still not my cup of tea. I've used LG software for years now, so I won't like go too much in detail. I just don't like how the software is on the LG V60 ThinQ. It's improving though, like I like the little features they have, but most are just not really used on a regular basis. It's not as bulky as it has been in recent years. They've cut down like the bloatware a little bit. The notification shade is now translucent, which looks better than the white shade with teal icons, but it still has a bit to go in my opinion. Given how great LG is with the software updates as well. That was kind of sarcasm if you didn't really catch it, because yeah, but I'm just really surprised that I'm running Android 10 now, which is great. So keep it up, LG, and we just need to see more software updates for your devices. Now let's look at one of my favorite things to use on this device, and it's the camera. And boy oh boy, that camera is amazing. Now this phone takes phenomenal photos. Although it's lacking an optical zoom, LG suggests that cropping images taken with a 64 megapixel camera, quote unquote digital zoom basically, but I don't really see the value in that solution. As you can expect, you'll see digital noise in your images, and it simply just doesn't compare to an actual optical zoom. Now you do get wide angle lens, however, which can be beneficial. I'm just not sure why LG excluding an actual optical zoom, except maybe to save money. Now it's not the end of the world, but it's very much missed. I do love the ability to review images on the second screen while taking photos using the main screen, though it's just such a genius idea. Like just taking pictures, having the dual screen on, it just works flawlessly, and it just feels like that's what's supposed to happen. Video recording on the other hand is quite exceptional, and like some other flagships you could record in 8K. However, most people don't have an 8K display to watch that content on, plus the file sizes are enormous, making it like not really realistic for using on a regular basis. At least you could expand the storage with a micro SD card slot. 8K is also limited to 24 frames per second, which isn't an issue for some people, but the ability to hit 60 FPS would have been spot on. Now the price is great. This phone starts at $799, and if you want to bundle it with the screen, it comes in at $899, and I think that's a pretty good deal. And overall, as I said before, this is like one of my favorite Android phones to use right now. And yeah, let me know what you think down below. LG, if you're watching this, please just make us an actual foldable phone or something instead of this attachment, because knowing that we could take it off, I just tend to just leave it at home and only use it when I'm at home. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy this review. As always, love, peace, and tweaks. Signing out.